Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 5 of the Dorm Next Door podcast. Happy Reformation Day, but also if you celebrate Halloween, which I don't necessarily, but if you do, if you're watching the YouTube video, I dressed up. I have a Minecraft diamond chest plate on. But to be honest, it's actually, I don't think when I clip this thing, anybody will take me seriously if I keep it on. So I just have it on for the intro of the video. Now I'm gonna take it off real quick right now. Watch this. All right. Well, so last episode was a big deal. Last episode took a lot of prep work into it, and I didn't have as much attention that I could give to this episode because I have a really cool thing that I'm going to be a part of starting. Well, not necessarily part of it. It's a one-time thing. I'm going to be going on a certain YouTube channel that does certain things that's super, super exciting and important nowadays. Everybody, I think if you're listening to this, there's a good chance you've seen a clip from it, but I'm not going to talk about it any further. If you know me personally, then I haven't shut up about it, but I'm just going to stop there. But that's just one of the reasons why I've been kind of spending most of my time that I have free getting ready and prepared for that and learning and having to kind of be as prepared as I possibly could be for whatever conversation might pop up. But that's super, super exciting. However, I absolutely have fallen in love with the information that I had to. It's a weird thing to really love looking into bad things that are happening or learning about bad things, but I just think that God is speaking through the information through this episode because, to be honest, I've had fewer time to prepare for this episode than any of the other past episodes, but I think that the information is more interesting than pretty much anything else I put out. So without further ado, the title of today's episode is The New Establishment. And the thing is you're probably thinking that this could be a bash on the Trump administration. It's not. Not at all. But it's just kind of the fact that in today's world, you have, specifically in the United States with the Trump administration, a group of people whom have persisted. They have existed and they have kept their jobs in every single previous administration that the White House has seen. And the truth is that a lot of the people that call the shots in government agencies and things as such, people that live in Washington, D.C. and work in the Pentagon or any other sort of type of building, White House, Congress, there can be some insanely powerful human beings, and you're never going to know their name, and you're not even going to know that they exist. And many times you won't even know that their department, because it's so niche, or their job title exists. And that's the thing, is that even when we have a new president, even when we have somebody that's coming in and is going to promise to change the world, when they're promising that they're going to enact policies that are going to change the face of the United States for the better, don't necessarily call them a liar. However, they have no shot. They have no shot. They have no chance of enacting any of these policies because of the people that actually run that town, that you don't even know their name. They tap your president, whoever they are, whoever you would have voted for. If they won, they get tapped on the shoulder. I guarantee first week, and they explain to them, the men in black suits tap them on the shoulder and said, "This is actually how we run it." And we've seen it done. I mean, you don't have to necessarily look too deep to really understand that stuff like this has been going on for years, at least the last 60 years. Because the last president that really tried to fight this was Kennedy. So in Washington, D.C., you have to understand the people, the deep state, a large portion of them are people that have 15, 20, 25, 30-year careers. So whenever a president comes in, and let's say their government agency is doing something that they really don't like, well, whenever that administration comes in, they'll put a temporary halt on whatever's going on. They'll put a temporary halt on the CIA, the FBI, and whatever operation that they're doing that the president deems a massive red flag. But you know what these people do? they'll wait 4 to 8 years. We have a huge problem. You've got a president that's only in office for 4 years, maybe 8, and they likely choose from a pool. Their entourage becomes people that are selected out of the same pool as these people that are a part of the deep state that last their entire working career working for the government, right? So they infiltrate the government, they infiltrate the White House and their administration in that way, and then also they simply will wait out the president of the United States if they oppose him. So an example is there were things going on in the CIA that President George W. Bush put a stop to. He said, we're not going to be doing X, Y, and Z. So you should stop and you give up on that because it's over. So what do these people do? They simply waited him out. 8 years goes by. There's a new president. They were maybe 10 years into their career prior, but there's really no telling how long they're actually going to last. Many of those people are still even in office today. They still hold their desk job today. Let me tell you, the CIA loved Barack Obama. They had Barack Obama wrapped around their finger. And particularly what they would do is they would go into the White House, and whenever they're going to give the president an intelligence briefing, they would kind of tell the president everything that they think that he would be excited about, and they'd selectively choose what they were going to show him. And from that, they won over the president so that by routine, they would simply do these things. They would pick something that they think that the president would approve of. They would show the president that. They would try to explain to the president why it's so great what they're doing and where they're doing it. And from there, they had Barack Obama's approval. Wherever they told Obama to look, Obama looked. And whenever Obama looked where they told him to look, they went right back to doing the shady business that I'm not so sure he would have approved of if he had known about. But intelligence had him wrapped around their finger. That's how things really move in Washington. We're going to maintain the status quo regardless. We're going to continue doing what we have been doing our entire careers, and nobody, not even a president of the United States, is going to get in our way. But what makes this topic relevant? It seems like it's maybe something in the past. It seems like it's not really breaking news today. Well, something massive did happen that totally relates to this narrative. And I just noticed this came across my feed today, and it's from Daily Mail UK. And this article states that Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, has just put a halt and completely stopped a probe that Joe Kent, he is the head of the National Counterterrorism Group, and he is actually Tulsi Gabbard's closest advisor. All right? And so what he did was he was going to launch a probe into the Charlie Kirk assassination that the FBI is already doing an investigation on, and he wanted to see if there was any proof that there was any foreign involvement in what happened. So what did Kash Patel do? He just immediately put a stop to it. Immediately. And the crazy thing is in this same article that came out 2 days ago from the release of this episode, what happened is Trump's advisors said that they didn't want this investigation to take place because it would actually give Tyler Robinson, the suspect in this case, it would give him his team of lawyers leverage, and it would give them ammo in arguing that there were multiple suspects. Is that crazy or what? So the FBI director himself stepped in on this case and stopped Joe Kent. Now here's the thing. I'm not saying anything. I'm not arguing anything. The facts were presented in plain sight, as is. Okay? Joe Kent wanted to investigate, to do his job. He's in charge of the counterterrorism center of the federal government, right? So he wanted to do that. So if everything is as is, and if everything is as they're telling us, then the FBI should have literally no problem just letting somebody take a probe. Because the federal government does probes, the DOJ does probes all of the time. So what's the problem with just simply investigating something if there's nothing to be worried about at all? This is a question that you need to ask yourself. And at this point, if somebody believes that we are constantly being told the truth by the federal government and beyond, I want to meet that person because I don't think they exist anymore, right? It seems like you have the 0.1% that are in charge of mass media, the federal government, many state governments too. The 0.1, it's a smaller percentage than that, but I just grabbed 0.1. The 0.1 that have power are not so great at convincing the other 99.9% of people that the status quo is as accurate as they describe. We're not necessarily the easiest at being lied to anymore. And I think that people are seriously starting to wake up. I mean, I've been hearing even the talking point for the RNC has been people are waking up, but people are actually figuring out what's going on is not normal. Now, it's been reported in this exact same article that Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel, the FBI, have been butting heads the entirety of the Trump administration. So, okay, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the FBI who did they did a Mar-a-Lago raid on Trump's house with no actual reason? Or are you going to be on the side of Tulsi Gabbard, who in 2020, with her grassroots campaign running for president, literally ended Kamala Harris's campaign hopes on the stage in about 30 seconds? I'm picking the latter. It doesn't matter what party affiliation she has. 10 times out of 10, I'm going to choose to trust somebody that actually seems to be authentic and genuine over the conglomerate of the FBI that's done shady stuff since I can remember. Right? It seems like we're so quick to forget that this institution that we're supposed to trust all of a sudden because Trump is in office is still the exact same, and it's mostly the same people as a few years ago when they raided Trump's house. And they looked through his personal belongings. They looked through everything. So we're supposed to pick their side. We're supposed to trust the FBI. We're supposed to act like the intelligence agencies are always telling the truth no matter what. I don't think so. I don't think anybody knowing that story and remembering what happened just a few short years ago would find any reason to trust that. But the choice is yours. The amazing thing about this country is that we still have somewhat the opportunity to decide what we want to believe, to evaluate information and read what we believe are the facts, because it seems like the facts as it comes to whatever political party you're going to choose, whatever narrative your party is going to back up, it seems like that can be debated for hours nowadays with no end. But you can at least look at these things. You can at least look at both sides. You can at least weigh what they're both trying to say, and you can figure out what you actually believe from there. And I hope you do. But from my maybe bias and what I'm telling you guys right now, this is very, very sketchy. And another kind of aspect of these people kind of telling us what we should believe, another part of this narrative that just came out is that J.D. Vance was giving a speech, and it was in front, it was at a college, I forget which college it was, and there were great parts of the speech. But then he starts talking about Thomas Massie. He is a congressman from Kentucky. And he says in a clip that we need to be voting out. This is the same narrative that comes from Trump. J.D. Vance supports the idea that we need to be voting out Thomas Massie. Well, why do you ask? Well, I'm going to let J.D. Vance speak for himself. Watch this clip.
Independent, having your own opinions is one thing. Voting against the party on every single issue, you're eventually going to make too many enemies. And that is the problem that Thomas has had. It's not one issue. It's not 3 or 4 issues. It's that every time that we've needed Thomas for a vote, he has been completely unwilling to provide it. That is why the President of the United States has trained his ire on Thomas Massie. It's because we can never count on him for some of the most difficult votes. I wish that that weren't the case, I say that as somebody who's known Thomas well before I got into politics, but politics is politics, and when you always vote against the party, you can't expect the party to actually back you.
Right? So J.D. Vance believes that if you are a Republican in Congress and you vote against Republicans every single time, then there comes a point, right, where you just shouldn't be supported by Republicans. And I would agree with that. I'd say that is 100% true. I agree. That's the case. That should be the case. You should get them out. But let's actually look at the numbers and see what's actually going on. So the numbers say that in his lifetime in Congress, in his entire congressional career, he has voted with the Republican Party 83% of the time. Okay? And at an even higher rate, in just this session of Congress alone, he has voted with the Republicans 96% of the time. The Republican average in Congress is 89%. And as it relates to voting with the White House, Thomas Massie has voted with this administration 32 out of 38 times. So 75% of the time he's voting with Trump, and the 6 times he voted against it are in bills that I don't even know what's in it. You and I don't know what's in it. You and I haven't heard of them, right? So it's definitely not on these major issues that are taking place in the United States that are in the news. So Thomas Massie is not who they say he is. And if you look into who he actually is, he represents stopping foreign aid to both Israel and Ukraine, right? He doesn't have a bias there, and I think that most Americans are actually on the same page as him. He wants to end sex trafficking, but not just weirdly kind of dance around the subject and ignore everything that happened with Epstein. He wants and he voted for the release of those files. So his record has actually been representing his people a heck of a lot better than I think 99% of congressmen and women have been. If you look into him, his beliefs, how he's voted, who's funded him, all these things, if you look into his signs of integrity, you'll know that he is actually the kind of guy that you'd rather support instead of the establishment and who they push. Now, this could just be things that are fed to J.D. Vance. But the truth is that Thomas Massie is a legit guy. He's a good congressman. He's honest. But the narrative that's being pushed is that we need to vote this guy out. Why? You need to explain to me and give me an actual good reason why you want Thomas Massie out. I personally think that corruption is the answer as to why they want him out. Not because he's corrupt, but because they are. Right? But the truth is that I can't trust people that boo somebody like Thomas Massie. I can't take them seriously when they boo him because I know exactly what makes them cheer. So he challenges the narrative. He stands for what he believes in. To have values, to have integrity. I don't care if he's getting in the way sometimes. I think that if you actually stand for what you believe in and don't just fold either way, when you can handle pressure and when you stand firm, the district that you represent will probably notice that, and they'll love you even more. So I do think that we need to seriously reevaluate, if I have any voice at all, reevaluate, do we actually want this guy out? I don't. He doesn't even represent me. He's my favorite congressman. My congressman back home, at one point in time, he was the richest man in Congress. He does not represent where I'm from. He does not represent my hometown. I can tell you Thomas does. So it doesn't matter where he's from, what political party he has. That's honesty. And he represents honesty. I like J.D. Vance. Right? I know I've kind of given him crap in previous episodes, but the truth is that I think that he has a good shot at being a genuine guy. But he would have to do 2 things. He would have to sever all ties with Silicon Valley. That's a hard thing for him to do since his entire career was developed and backed by huge Silicon Valley money. All right, so that's the first thing that JD Vance would have to do to gain my trust. And the second thing he would have to do is he would have to be in favor of cutting all foreign aid to both Israel and Ukraine, specifically for military purposes. If we can get those two things, we can build up from there. But that is something that is super, super important to the people my age. I'm not just pretending to represent them, but that's what we actually want. We don't also want to go to war with Iran. I can tell you most Americans don't know this, but it looks like we have a good shot that we're going to try and overthrow the government of Venezuela right now. What interest do us Americans have in that? Tucker Carlson got so much heat from the establishment for saying things just like that, but he ended up being correct. What interest do we actually have in these foreign wars? We need people that are willing to actually ask those questions. Debate moderators, specifically at the presidential debate, dodge questions like that all the time. They'll ask the candidate what they said. They'll ask the candidate why they did this 25 years ago. It's honestly at this point more about what the candidates have said than about what the candidates actually want to do. They gave Trump a horrible time in 2016 because he said, 11 years ago, 15 years ago, instead of talking about what he wanted to do and how it actually would benefit the United States. This is how they decide to ask questions. They ask the wrong questions. We need people that want to ask the right questions. But the truth is the reason why I say so much about Republicans is because I have the luxury to, right? In the Republican Party, at least at this point, we have the luxury of being able to critique and be meticulous and really figure out these things and weed out who we want to so we can have the best party possible. We don't have that luxury when it comes to either choosing to vote Republican or Democrat at this point. The unfortunate reality is, at this point in our country, the Democrats hate us. They absolutely hate us. I'm hesitating to say this, but something you're going to see this Halloween is there's a new Halloween costume that's going to come out this year. And I've seen a photo of, there's this guy on Twitter that posted a picture of himself, and he is dressed up. He bought a white Freedom shirt that Charlie Kirk was wearing when he passed away. Bought it from Turning Point USA, and he decided to put on some makeup to make himself look like Charlie right when he got shot. This is the stuff that the left is doing. It's so far beyond the critiques that we can have on Republicans. It's reached a point where they have a hate in their heart that I can't even fathom myself. I don't understand it. So if you're going to dress up like that for Halloween, you should be fired from your job, and more than that, you should probably be excommunicated from our society. But this is the kind of people that we have. I could talk about whether I like Thomas Massie or if I think Thomas Massie's genuine. Maybe I don't like the way that the White House is coming after him, blah, blah, blah. It's black and white now with Democrats, with the left. They have a hate in their heart that I have never seen in this country. A lot of time, they don't want you to live. They've been open about this. The guy that's running for the Democratic position, the Democrat that's running to be the Attorney General of Virginia is guilty of just that. So they're running for office in some of the highest places, and they work at a lot of the places that you'll be going to. Like they're literally at this point embedded. They're everyday Americans. They're not just a group of people. Like it's not like it's the Klan, right? Where there's distinct membership. These are everyday people that hate you this much for simply what you believe in. And it's constitutional Republican values that give them the right to say it. So regardless, in 2028, if it's JD Vance, he has to win. It just keeps getting to this point. JD Vance, if he is the Republican nominee in 2028, has to win the election. Because you know what options we're running with right now? Because we have a decimated political bench for the Democratic Party. They're running people like Zohran Mamdani, who's got super, super popular recently, as everybody knows, and he's running for the second most powerful executive position in the country. And that's the mayor of New York harbors more power than most people realize. They're going to be in charge of one of the biggest economies in the world. One of the centers for trade, stocks, you name it. New York City is the center for many, many things of the entire world. And we're going to let a socialist, and the only job that this dude, this Nepo baby, has held in his entire life was he wanted to be a rapper for 3 months. So this is how we get to this point. We've gone so far that there's a good shot, there's a good chance that a socialist that's never had a job in his entire life, no prior experience, is going to be in charge of one of the biggest economies in the world, and he's going to try and turn it beyond socialist. He's a communist. He wants to have the government of New York City. He wants to have his office take control of much of the services, much of the private institutions in the city without their choice. He is a communist. And I don't think that we should try and filter Trump. I don't think we should try and restrain Trump when Trump says we should arrest this guy, because at this point, somebody like that is actually a threat to your freedom. As a citizen of New York City, he's a threat to your freedom. He's a threat to your economic and overall freedom as a citizen. It's not declining, it's not denying freedom, it's not being against discourse to say that this dude should be in jail. He should be in jail. Our Constitution does not protect against communism. It actually deviates that in the greatest way, deviates from that in the greatest way possible. Sorry, it's been a long day. But he actually is somebody that we need to be extremely, extremely concerned about. New York City is one of the most liberal cities in the country. So by design, he is, assuming he's elected, that is the predecessor for all the other cities in the entire country. Imagine what it'd be like if every single major city in the United States, 10, 20 years from now, is ran by a guy like Zohran. Imagine in your head what you think the country would look like if that was the case. I don't think it's good. It seems like a pretty grim future to me. It seems like a pretty dark future to me. That's not an America I want to live in. And he's also guilty at this point. He's under fire. He has charges brought against him for taking in foreign money for his campaign illegally. So, say what you want about Mayor Adams. He had cases as well. But you've got a communist criminal Nepo baby running to be the mayor of the greatest city in America. Maybe it's the greatest city in the world. This is, unfortunately, the point that we've gotten. So, we don't even have a choice anymore. It seems like the only party that's able to kind of still debate within itself, kind of filter itself, figure out what they think would be the best to represent their party as, is the Republican Party. It's the only one left. And I'm not in favor of central control of one party, right? The framers of the Constitution were even against two parties having all the control, but yet here we are. The only party that has any sense left in it today, it is the Republican Party. You know why? Because Democrats are committing political violence. They're trying to send the country down a path it will never return. But you can still have debates within the Republican Party, and I can still get an ear from a Republican politician. Democrats hate you and I. That's the point that we've gotten. Whether you're the governor of California or you're the minority leader in the Senate, You harbor a hate in your heart for the American citizen that I just want to ask, why do you even want to be in office then? I don't understand it. If Gavin Newsom hates California enough to ruin it like he has, why did he want to run to be governor of California to do it? Personal ego, arrogance, pride. This is the things that have been their downfall. They complain so much about Trump. Okay, you opened the door to make him president of the United States. Because people saw a need, a demographic that thought that they were forgotten about. I'm talking about the people in the Rust Belt, where their factory got shut down and all the jobs got sent over to China. Those people saw that you didn't care about them. So they decided to show up and vote. They were thinking about sitting this one out because they've been told the same thing over and over again. So you wonder how Trump got elected? Look no further than Gavin Newsom. Look no further than Barack Obama. Look no further than Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. Look no further than Dick Cheney. And they're still in charge of much of our country today. I just don't think that they should ever start to ask the question of how they got into the position that they're in today. You have to be stupid if you're a Democrat and you're wondering how you don't have control over the judicial branch, how you don't have control over the Senate, the House, or the presidency. How do you think you got there? It's because for years, you push your own agenda. You've told Americans 24/7 how much you hate them. You've tried to push policies that are going to bankrupt the country even further in order to reopen this government that they've been keeping shut because they won't vote to, and they've been keeping Americans hostage that work for the government for their own political gain. Right? I'm in college right now, and because the FAA is shut down, I might not even be able to fly home for Christmas because they are keeping the government shut down for their own political gain to try and get Americans to look at Trump like he's the problem in this situation. Not true at all. But this is what they want to do. And you know what their conditions are for reopening the government? They want to increase our debt as a nation. We just passed $38 trillion, right? At the beginning, 2 months ago, it was 37. We just passed 37. We added another trillion. They want to extend our debt another $1.5 trillion. That's the condition for reopening the government. Absolutely absurd. It blows my mind at this point. But it's just a testament to the country that we live in today. That we got to fight for it. And with your vote, you got to cast that ballot for the Republican Party. Nobody thinks that that party is perfect. Nobody. But I'd rather be fed crap than poison. I'd rather be fed crap than acid. That's just what I think. But anyways, thank you so much for listening to episode 5 of the Dorm Next Door podcast. I am so thankful that you decided to take a little bit of time out of your super busy week because you saw it valuable to listen to this podcast, and I hope you got something from it. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. Sorry I stuttered a little bit through it. It's been a super, super long week. I got some cool things planned ahead that I'm going to be I'm going to actually have to go back home next week to participate in. Sorry, I keep stuttering. But thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.